We're so thrilled to have Nancy Wright with us this evening. Nancy's a South Central Section 99 member, Rio Grande Norte chapter chair at this time. And in 2019, Nancy invited her mom to travel to Jordan to attend the Arabian Section meeting. So that's what we're going to hear. We're just happy that she could join us and tell us more about her experience. So help me welcome Dr. Wright, and we're just so thrilled to hear what you have to tell us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, everyone. My name is Nancy. Welcome to the webinar. I would like to start with a few disclaimers. And one disclaimer that I didn't have a chance to put on is there's actually a wildfire in my community right now. But everything's fine. I'm fine. We're not in danger. So if my mom's on, she doesn't have to worry. If my friends are on, they may have heard that there was a fire in Sapio. The electricity is out. We have the generator on. So if I seem a little distracted, maybe that's what it's from. But first, let me go through these. I wanted to, first off, these are my perspectives. They aren't the perspectives of the International 99s or the Arabian Section. These are my own perspectives. And these are the issues that are important to me when I travel. Other people have other things that are important to them, but this is what's important to me. I have no conflicts of interest to declare, and I'm not getting paid for this. And once again, like the title says, I'm an American. Other people, other non-Americans or non-North Americans may have a different perspective. So first, I'm going to talk about me, and then I'm going to talk about where we're planning to go for this Jordan meeting. And last, I'll talk about a few practical and important matters. I timed myself and I'm about 30 minutes with this. So there's 14 slides. So there should be plenty of time for questions and discussions at the end. So about me, I've been a 99 since 2015. My husband and I own a Bonanza A36. We're based in Las Vegas, New Mexico. That's the northern part of New Mexico. And I know that is not my airplane, that's someone else's airplane, but it's a good picture. I'm a medical doctor. My board certification is in pediatrics, but I do flight physicals. I'm an aeromedical examiner as well. Right now, I'm working on my master's degree in public health. I'm a returned Peace Corps volunteer. I lived for over 2 years in Nigeria. So that colors a lot of my perspectives on traveling. I'm the chair of the Rio Grande Norte chapter in the South Central Section. And I traveled to Jordan for the Arabian Section meeting in 2019. Now, why did I do that? Well, for one, my mother wanted to travel to the Dead Sea. There are some health, it's like a health destination for people, and it has been. I'll talk about that a little later, but she wanted to go for that reason, for the health reasons. And I like to climb mountains, and I really wanted to climb Mount Sinai. And Mount Sinai is in Sinai, which is kind of across from the Gulf of Aqaba. I'll show you that on the map. And Mount Sinai is where Moses received the 10 commandments. I had in my mind to climb Mount Sinai, and this was the opportunity to go to Jordan and then take a side trip and go. And I'll talk about side trips a little later also. So the first question I get when people ask me about Jordan is it safe? And yes, it is safe. Oh, and by the way, that's me on top of Mount Sinai. And that you reach the top, you summit at sunrise. And so that's just as the sun was coming up. And I was very happy. A little bit about Jordan. It is a kingdom, and it's called the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. The photo there, that's King Hussein. He died some years ago. I think he died in 1999. And Queen Noor was his fourth wife, so that's his widow. Now, Queen Noor is actually, she was born in America. So the king married an American. And that's one reason why I showed this photo. And I got this photo off of the internet. Jordan has really close relations to the West and to the United States. When you run into Jordanians, they like to talk to Americans. They're curious. The children will want to practice their English with you. So that there's a really good relationship between Jordanians and Americans. And one other thing about Queen Noor, just on the side, there's a series of colleges that give a international baccalaureate degree. It's called the United World College System, and there's like 30 or 40 around the world. Queen Noor is the head of the United World College System. And the one United World College campus in the United States is just outside of Las Vegas, New Mexico. And I'm the doctor at the United World College. I see the students there for their medical issues. And so there's a kind of a personal relationship with, I mean, not, I don't know her, but I feel this affinity with Queen Noor as well. She's still alive. So there is a map of what Jordan looks like. And I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, but I'm moving my mouse around. So when we went to the conference in 2019, we'll be going to the same places that we plan to go in the fall for the international conference. And so you fly into Amman, that's the main international airport. And then you make your way from Amman to the resort on the Dead Sea. The resort is the northern part of the Dead Sea. We'll have our business meeting there. I think spend a couple of nights there. And then we make our way to Petra. And Petra is the one image that people have of Jordan. If you go to Jordan, you have to go to Petra. And it's a old city where the buildings, they're really tombs, but they're carved out of the sandstone. So we'll spend a day in Petra. Then we'll make our way down to Wadi Rum, which is like a desert area. We'll spend the night there. And then we'll make our way down to Aqaba. And Aqaba is on the Gulf. It's on the Gulf of Aqaba, which is part of the Red Sea. If you're interested, one of the interesting things you might be interested in is the Jordan River empties into the Dead Sea, and the Dead Sea doesn't have any outlet. That's why it's so salty. But between Amman and the Dead Sea is the spot where Jesus was baptized. So that's one place that I might be interested in seeing. I'm arriving in Jordan a day early, and I'd be interested to do that. Jerish is a Roman city. It has Roman ruins. And in 2019, some of the women on our group took an Uber. Back then, there was Uber in Amman. There might be Uber in more areas of the country, but then it was in Amman. They just took an Uber to Jerish just to check out the ruins. Some of the people on our group went to Israel as part of an extension. Some went before and made their way to Jordan from there, and some went to Israel after. I understand there's a commercial flight between Amman and Tel Aviv. It's a very short flight, you can see. And when my mom and I went to Sinai, so Sinai is the western part of the Gulf of Aqaba. And when we got to Aqaba, Mom and I didn't know how we were going to get to Sinai. We just figured that something would work out, and it did. One of the 99s on our group set us up with like a ship captain, and we were able to take a ship between Aqaba and Sinai, and then another 99 got us in touch with someone who set us up to actually climb Mount Sinai. So if you have any interest in going to Egypt, I would recommend it. The Sinai is really great. It's also not hard to get to Cairo if you're interested in going to Cairo. So here are a few photos. On the left side are photos of the Dead Sea. Now these are all, mostly these are my photographs. The gyrocopter, I think, was on the Arabian Section website. because they had gyrocopters there you could fly around. You can soak in the water there. The salinity there is 10 times more than what's in the ocean. People have been going to the Dead Sea at least since biblical times because of it as a health destination. It's not just the salts in the water, it's the particular mix of different minerals in the water that's supposed to be really good for skin conditions. Also, the Dead Sea is, I looked it up today, it's 1,400 feet below sea level. And so there's a greater partial pressure of oxygen there, so you get a little bit more oxygen. Also, what's kind of interesting is if you have a skin condition that's good for sunlight, there's less UV radiation at 1,400 feet below sea level. So you get the benefits of the sunlight therapy without as much of the radiation from the ultraviolet light. You can buy Dead Sea salt while you're there. And they have this mud. I don't know where they get the mud from, but the mud's supposed to be really good for you also. So what you do is you get out and you smear yourself with mud and you take pictures of yourself and then you rinse yourself off. And then you can buy some of the mud at the Dead Sea also. And I still have some of the Dead Sea mud in my shower that I use every so often. You can't stay in the water for very long. It's really kind of harsh. And it's also, you're so buoyant that it's really hard to swim. It's like your balance gets all funny. But the Dead Sea is a very nice place to go. So here's a picture of Petra. There's a few 99s. We got these white polo shirts, like the one I'm wearing right now. So you could tell that some of these photos have us wearing the white polo shirts. And I don't know if my mom's on or not, but that's my mom. And Petra is it's a slot canyon. And I went to medical school in Utah. I like climbing around in slot canyons. I think they're a lot of fun. Of all the activities that we're planning to do for this conference tour, the walk into Petra is the one area where there is some walking. I forget how many miles it is, but it's quite a little ways of walking. It's flat. There's not a lot of hills, and it's also paved. So, and you can see it's in the shade. So even if it's hot out, it shouldn't be too hot, but make sure you have good walking shoes and that your shoes are broken in and that you're in pretty good walking shape when you go to Petra. You see if there's anything else about Petra. It was a lot of fun. These are just two generic photos that I got off of the internet. Wadi Rum is a desert area. A lot of movies are filmed there. For instance, The Martian, because it looks kind of like a Martian landscape, except for the plants, I guess. Lawrence of Arabia, a lot of that film was filmed in Wadi Rum. And then Aqaba is a city it's a port city. There's a beach there. You can spend time on the beach. I like the beach. I think one of the activities for Wadi Rum is they might have hot air ballooning. They might have like a Jeep tour. I think there's going to be we had a reenactment of a train, not a train robbery, but to what they did in World War I when Lawrence of Arabia attacked the trains. It was like a reenactment of that in Wadi Rum. In Aqaba, of all the places we were at, I thought, and I'll say this later on, Aqaba had the best shopping. I thought we have like a whole free day in Aqaba where you can just walk around and explore. But Aqaba was very nice. The next few slides are text heavy and just a lot of things that were important to me when we traveled and that people ask me about. So food's important to me. It's kind of like a Mediterranean diet there. There was a lot of rice, hummus, bread, all kinds of bread, fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, cheese, yogurt, hard-boiled eggs. We had chicken a lot. I don't think we had any pork at all. I asked vegetarians if they felt like they had enough options, and they said, oh yeah, there was plenty of options for vegetarians. As far as water, Now, Jordan isn't a place where you really worry about, like other places I've traveled, you worry about like sewage water mixing in with the drinking water. And that's really not the case in Jordan. I think their water system is just fine. But no water system is sterile. There's always going to be some microorganisms in the water. And so it's probably best to drink bottled water just to make it easy on your gastrointestinal system. You don't want to have diarrhea while you're there. I'm a pediatrician, so I'm comfortable talking about this sort of thing. There aren't any particular health issues you have to worry about in Jordan. I think you're not any more likely to get sick there than you are in any city in the United States, really. For Jordan, there aren't any required vaccines. I think whatever COVID requirements they are. I think there is some paperwork you have to submit a few days before you travel, but I think that's the extent of it. You don't have to have a yellow fever vaccine. There are pharmacies and hospitals all over the place. There will be at least one doctor on this group, although I don't usually treat and diagnose adults, but there will probably be others as well. And I'm sure there will be some nurses, so we won't be, all by ourselves. This is new. Travel health insurance is required. When you register for the meeting, you're supposed to be given a quote about what the travel insurance is. I haven't received my quote yet, so I can't tell you how much that is. And again, especially from a health perspective, Jordan is a very safe place. The ability to stay connected to home is really important to me. And I bring this up just so people know that there are options. I listed 3 options here, and I know everyone's just going to do number 1 because that's the default and it's easy and it's what people usually do. But there are other cheaper options. And the first is just to connect your phone to the cell service in Jordan. And for Verizon in the United States, for Verizon, it's $10 a day, and they charge it every 24 hours. So whenever you connect, it's $10, and that's it. The second option is what all the sophisticated travelers do, and it's what people who don't live in North America do pretty much, is you buy a local SIM card. So you take the SIM card out of your phone, you buy a local SIM card and slap it in. I understand there are stores, there are shops that are open 24 hours a day at the airport in Amman. The last I saw, for what it's worth, 7 days gives you a gigabyte for $6.50 US. So $6.50 for a week, and then $18 for 3 gigabytes. Now, one of the caveats for this is you have to make sure your phone is unlocked, and most Apple iPhones are locked. So I don't know if you can do this with an iPhone. I think most Android phones are unlocked. So this is something I might try if I have time at the airport and I can buy a local SIM card. I might just try that out. The third option is just to put your phone on airplane mode the whole time and connect to Wi-Fi, because Wi-Fi is everywhere in Jordan. I mean, it's when you travel around nowadays, there's just free Wi-Fi everywhere. The buses we travel on will have Wi-Fi on them. A lot of people have privacy concerns about this or a risk of being hacked. It's a lot safer now than it used to be. Also, I bought a virtual private network, a VPN, and it's really cheap. It's like $25 for 2 years. And it just adds an extra layer of security. Nothing is foolproof, but the more layers of security you have, the better. So that is an option, is just not even worrying about connecting, just get on Wi-Fi. One last suggestion for this is to get on the WhatsApp group. WhatsApp is an application. Everyone in the world uses it because you can use it with Wi-Fi. You don't have to use cell service to do it. You can send messages, you can send voice recordings, you can do even phone calls on WhatsApp just through the application. And the key is that the person you're calling and contacting, it has to go through their WhatsApp also. Just so you know, this WhatsApp is owned by Facebook. So if you're kind of worried about privacy with Facebook, that is something. But the Arabian section, or the people who are planning this trip, has a WhatsApp group for this trip. So if you are planning to go to this trip, get on that WhatsApp group text. You can go to the Facebook page for the Arabian section to get an invitation to get in on that. And then while we're in Jordan, that's how we keep in communication with each other. A few more things. You buy your visa when you arrive at the airport. You really don't need to get it before. There's been some discussion in the last few days about getting a Jordan pass. I don't think I'm going to get a Jordan pass. I think I'm just going to buy the visa when I arrive at the airport. It's 60 Jordanian dinars. As far as money goes, you'll need to change money when you get to the airport. Jordan is one of the very few countries I've been to where the local currency unit is worth more than $1. So you have to keep it straight in your head. So $100 gives you 71 Jordanian dinars. Also, this is one of the few places where American dollars aren't universally accepted. They really prefer the Jordanian currency. Credit cards are usually accepted. I think you can buy your visa with a credit card, but I'm not absolutely sure about that. The electricity uses the same outlets as in Europe, and everywhere we're going has electricity. For laundry, I didn't see any coin-operated laundry machines anywhere. I probably at all of the resorts we're staying at, they'll have some kind of laundry facilities available. Those are usually pretty pricey. When we're in Jordan, it's supposed to be pretty warm, not terribly hot, but warm. So we'll be able to wear light clothes that are washed pretty easily. So I'll probably just wash my own clothes while I'm there. For shopping, when I went in 2019, our best shopping experience was in Aqaba. Now Aqaba is its own economic zone. I don't exactly understand how that works, but there's a lot of things that you can buy there. If you want to buy gifts to bring home, Aqaba would be the place to buy it. And also expect to haggle. They do haggle. And it's fine. Again, Jordanians are very nice and they're very friendly. And with a lot of countries like in the Middle East, I think we'll have a lot of senior age women in our group, and a lot of these societies really respect older people and especially older women, so that they're going to be really friendly to you. And so haggling should be fun and it shouldn't be a stressful experience. Another thing is that Jordan is not cheap. This isn't a place where you get a full meal for $4 kind of thing, like some other countries. As far as dress goes, it is primarily a Muslim country, and you'll see some women, especially some of the other 99s who are from other Middle East countries, who are wearing head coverings and such. But it's not required. People don't give you a hard time if you're not wearing the body coverings and the head coverings. That being said, just be respectful. If you're walking around them on in revealing clothes, you're probably going to get picked on. But if you're more respectful, probably not. I don't think I ran into any beggars while I was in Jordan. I've been in other countries where there were beggars and it can be kind of upsetting. I mean, even in the US, we have that. But it just wasn't an issue in Jordan. Most Jordanians speak some English, not all, but most of them speak some. You could get by. Smoking and alcohol is a little backwards in Jordan, where in the US you don't see a lot of smokers, but you see people drinking alcohol. In Jordan, you see a lot more people smoking, and alcohol is just a lot more behind the scenes. There are bars where we're going. It's just not as visible in Jordan as it is in the United States. toilets. Now, remember, I lived in the African bush, so toilets are kind of a thing with me. They're fine. The toilets in Jordan are fine. If you go to a public space, they might have some of the squat toilets, and they're really clean. They have like a hose and towels. You can wash yourself off afterwards. It's really kind of nice. And if there's like a big line, I'll go in and use the squat toilet, if no one else is using it. For time and schedules, I try to be diplomatic about this, but if, let's say, we're told to go meet at the bus at 9:30 and it'll leave at 9:45, maybe it will and maybe it won't. So things often don't go on time the way we expect them to, and it's okay. That's just how it is. And one of the things that I found on the trip is that women from the Middle East, they don't have general aviation in these countries, and so they're professional pilots. And so I had a lot of respect for them because they were professional pilots, but they also had respect for me because I own my own airplane and I can just go up in the air whenever I want, pretty much. And they don't have the ability to do that. They wish that they could do that. This is the last slide. So some final thoughts. Now on the top, that's from, I think, the 99's website. So I hope it's okay that we used it. But the woman in the middle is Alia. She's the governor of the Arabian section, and she's the one who is setting up this whole conference. To Alia's left, she was at the conference as well. Alia flies for Royal Jordanian Airlines. And when you're in Jordan and you see any like billboards or signs or ads for Royal Jordanian Airlines, there's usually a picture of Alia on there. And then Vanessa, who's next to her. Last I saw her, she was flying in Qatar, I think, for Qatar Airways. So, and then the picture in Wadi Rum, that's a group photo. That was after the big train attack reenactment. But my final thoughts is that the 99s are an international organization. There's a lot going on in our world that keeps us apart and creates obstacles. And this is an opportunity to spend a week with women from all over the world, from the Middle East, from Africa, who we otherwise wouldn't see. And we share something special, that the 99s are a sisterhood and we all love to fly. And that's a special thing. So take the opportunity, if you're going on this trip, take this opportunity to learn about other cultures and really get to know the depth of how our organization brings women together. And finally, yes, Jordan is safe. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing.
Okay, thanks, Nancy. We did have some questions pop up in the chat. There was a question about electricity. Someone was saying about Europe, and so the answer was provided: CDFG, or I should say Charlie, Delta, Fox, Golf, and Juliet type plugs. 230.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, but
and then someone said, thank you so much. Sounds like a great trip. I look forward to talking with 99's friends after they get back. Another question, what are the overnight accommodations like?
Well, the resort on the Dead Sea is just like any other resort. There are hotel rooms, and you can, I'm sure you can just walk right. There's probably a swimming pool and a restaurant, and you just walk down to where the water is, where the Dead Sea is. And Wadi Rum, I'm not exactly sure what they call it, like a tent camp. I don't. When we were there, we didn't stay in tents. They were like actual buildings, but they were kind of small and simple, nothing really too fancy, but had electricity, had air conditioning, had running water, all that sort of thing. And then the place we stayed in Aqaba was just like a regular hotel, a multi-story hotel. But I'm not sure what they're getting together. We probably won't stay in exactly the same places that we stayed when I went in 2019.
Right, right. We are just, Glenna had said this at the beginning, because there are a bunch of questions coming in. So Nancy's just sharing her experiences, because she a few years ago traveled to the same places that the after conference tour will be going to. And we are going to do a conference specific webinar with Minetta in July.
That's right.
So this isn't our only opportunity. And that one, Minetta will talk about some of the logistics of the upcoming conference. But other questions, are shorts slightly above the knee respectful?
No, below the knee or at the knee would. And if you're at the Dead Sea or at the beach in Aqaba, I mean, everyone knows you're going to be in your swimsuit, and that's okay. But probably shorts above the knee, probably not.
Is this a trip that someone with a scooter could join?
There was someone on our trip who used a wheelchair, and we made it work. It wasn't easy, but she did make it work. There aren't as many ADA, accessible areas like there is in the United States. But she got around okay.
Okay. And then funny enough, we were talking about this before the webinar. So question about recommendations for other trips, such as if we would like to go to Egypt afterwards.
There are the vice governor of the Africa section lives in Cairo, and actually her sister works for, I believe, still works for the tourism department in Egypt, and Dina would just love to have 99s go to Egypt after this trip. She is always promoting. She tried to talk me into going to Cairo, and I'm like, I'm not quite going to make it to Cairo. But yeah, Sinai was great. To go to Egypt, Americans need a visa, but going to Sinai, you don't. Sinai is a kind of a different place, and Sinai has just like the best scuba. I mean, I didn't even get into that, but the Red Sea is a tropical preserve, really, and there's a coral reef, and it's supposed to be just the best scuba in the world. And I think that's one of the activities you can do in Aqaba is go on a scuba trip. There's a C-130 that's that they put into the ocean, so you can go and dive around in it. But I thought Sinai was just great. I had the best time. I mean, you could probably do a tour in Israel where they meet you at the border and drive you across. There's all kinds of things you can do. And Egypt, I think, has really been hit hard with its tourism has really dropped in recent years. And then, of course, COVID made everything really bad. They would love to see tourists in Egypt or Sinai.
Okay. And then there was a question just related, other locations, as we just talked about Egypt. And in Jordan, you had mentioned Jesus's site of his baptism as another place that we may not necessarily be covering, but isn't that far away, right?
No, it's just north of the Dead Sea. When you take the drive from Amman to the Dead Sea, you see the signs going off saying this is where the baptism site is, and it's on the Jordanian side. I was just going to look into going just on my own, finding a driver who would take me there just to check it out. Nothing is really very far apart in Jordan.
Okay. When you went, because we are going to have the 99s specific, the international conference specific talk in July, but when you went, were there non-99s, so like 49 and a half who came along on the trip?
Right. There were, like my mother is not a 99, and she was with me, and there were other 99s who like brought their older children with them. There were husbands. Yeah, there were others on the trip.
Okay. Any thoughts on flying into Tel Aviv and out of Amman? how hard or long is it from Jerusalem to Amman, to get to Jerusalem to Amman?
One of my chapter members is planning to go to Israel from Jordan, and she's looked into flight. She said the flight from Amman to Tel Aviv is about 30 minutes. It's like you barely even get to altitude and go down. Now there are land crossings, and that is possible to do. In fact, there were some other 99s from Germany who were in Israel, and then they crossed over the land into Jordan, and they kind of said it wasn't that big a deal at all, but others say it's kind of a hassle to travel between Jordan and Israel over the land crossings. It can be done. Yeah, I was worried my mom and I would have to go up and around through Israel back to Aqaba, because it would have taken much longer. The water crossing was about 30 minutes, and going by land would have taken many hours. So I was glad that we had a way to get across by boat.
Okay. Then we have a question about the possibility of flying out of Cairo. If you know whether or not that's safe from when you were in Jordan last time.
And I'm assuming they want to cross over land from Cairo into Jordan.
And just rather than backtracking to Amman.
It can be done. I that whole area of Sinai, I haven't heard of any incidents occurring there. As far as like terrorists and stuff, but I don't know how easy it would be, and I mean, you can like take a bus and it would take probably 6 hours to go across that northern part of Sinai. It can be done, but I think taking an airplane commercial would probably be the way to go.
Okay. And then we talked about this the other day, places to snorkel or just scuba.
Aqaba, I mean, that whole Gulf of Aqaba, it's just beautiful. That we'll probably go to a beach and be able to snorkel around. But if you really want like the whole diving experience, I'm sure you could set up tours where they take you out on a boat and do the real scuba. I'm not a scuba person myself. I'm more of a snorkel person.
Okay. Just want to say, if anyone else has any further questions, please put them in the chat. And Corby Bullock has shared with us a link to the WhatsApp group.
Oh, good.
People who will be going to the conference for any kind of further information. And again, July, Minetta Gardenier is going to be joining us to talk specifically about the conference coming up in October. Can we pick up tours from the hotel, or should we, well, I guess this is also a Minetta question, really. Should we pre-plan all travel before going to Jordan? I think that there was a few logistics that still had to be worked out. But Minetta is going to speak to that in July. And then of course there's the WhatsApp group that Corby posted.
Well, what I would say about setting up tours is I think it would be real easy. And I tried to set stuff up beforehand the last time I went, and I just didn't really get anywhere. And I just figured, well, I'll get to Jordan and then I'll figure something out there. And, it's as easy as, maybe Alia has a cousin who knows someone who would be willing to drive you to the baptism site, and you give them, $50 or whatever, and they'll take care of it. And we're going to have a lot of connections while we're there. I'm sorry to, name Alia by name, but there's going to be connections there. And yeah, you can talk to someone at the hotel and they have a brother or something that they could set you up with. I wouldn't worry about that at all. And I wouldn't worry about getting too many things set up ahead of time.
Okay. And then one follow-up question going back to Egypt. Leaving Amman, traveling south, would it be more feasible to just continue going south to Cairo rather than going back north to Amman.
You could do it, but getting from Aqaba to Amman is really easy. I mean, my mom and I took a public transportation bus. And so we took the boat from, I think we were in Taba, and we took the boat into Aqaba, took a taxi from the boat ramp to the downtown Aqaba. One of the other 99s told mom and I how to get bus tickets, which we had to get it several days in advance. So we got bus tickets. We already had bus tickets. It was like, I think $8 a piece for us to go from Aqaba to Amman. And it was a nice bus. And then we didn't know how we would get from the bus stop to the airport in Amman, but we sat next to some people on the bus, and it was a real nice young woman, and she just kind of hailed an Uber for us on her own phone. And that's how we got to the airport. I mean, people are just friendly like that. And it's not that hard.
Okay. This might be a question that Glenna can answer better than you or I. How many ladies will be staying beyond the conference? I went to the North Central section meeting a couple weeks ago, and it looks like we're getting a great turnout. So I know those numbers are still coming in. And hopefully after today's webinar and Minetta's webinar in July, we'll encourage more people to join. I'm a little jealous. I wish I could go. But yeah, there's quite a number of people who have signed up for the tours afterwards. So I think those were all the questions. And Nancy, you got many thank yous from everybody.
Oh, you're welcome. Happy to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't see any smoke in the sky, so maybe the fire's moving on. So that's good.
There we go. Okay, thanks.
Okay, was that it, Deb?
That's it. Just the thank yous are still coming in.
Okay, well, Nancy, that was just fantastic. I mean, just to hear your perspective was wonderful. And, many of us have questions, and you addressed a lot. Just your take on the meeting of the Native people, it was great. And I love the laid back attitude. If you go there knowing that in advance, it's helpful, because well, anyway, we wanted to thank you very much. I want to let everyone know that's on this evening that in June, on the 14th, second Wednesday of the month, we'll be having a webinar featuring the pilot or Professional Pilot Leadership Initiative, the PPLI. Join us to learn more. Mark your calendar. And thank you everyone for joining us. Good night.